The Canadian national anthem is going gender neutral. Canada's Senate passed a bill Wednesday, January 31st, to change the words of the O Canada anthem from "In all thy sons command" to "In all of us command." Since 1980, when O Canada became the country's national anthem, 12 bills have tried to change the wording, but none were passed until now. A group of women, including author Margaret Atwood and former Prime Minister Kim Campbell, were part of the successful campaign to change it. Atwood tweeted her thanks to the Senate on Thursday. Many others are also celebrating the change. One Canadian tweeted saying she has been singing the quote, "new words" for about 35 years now. Others, however, think the change is a waste of time and money. There is also a French version of the anthem, but it does not have a reference to sons. For United News International, I'm Rachel Latham.
But the courtyard is pretty flooded. Oh shit!
A magnitude 6.1 earthquake shook Afghanistan and Pakistan, killing at least one person. The U.S. Geological Survey said the January 31st quake was centered in northeastern Afghanistan at a depth of over 191 kilometers. Tremors could be felt in both the capital cities of Kabul and Islamabad and as far away as India. At least one young girl died and 8 other people were injured when roofs collapsed in Pakistan's Balochistan province. Meanwhile, a stampede of students trying to get out of a school in the Pakistani city of Peshawar injured 4 children. 3 others were injured when a wall collapsed in Afghanistan's Badakhshan province. Gul Mohammad Badar, the deputy governor of Badakhshan, said officials are still collecting information from the remote province. A magnitude 7.5 earthquake hit the same region in 2015, killing over 400 and leaving thousands homeless. For United News International, I'm Matt Paul.
Mount Mayon is still producing ash and lava, and tourists are flocking to see it in action. People took photos with the Philippines' most active volcano in nearby towns in the Albay province. Mayon has been erupting for more than 2 weeks, causing about 84,000 people to evacuate. Mayon blew columns of ash twice on Tuesday, January 30th in the late morning and early evening. On Wednesday night, a super blue blood moon appeared over Mayon, leaving viewers in awe. This is the result of the sun, earth, and moon lining up for a lunar eclipse when the moon is close to the earth, mixed with it being a second full moon within a month. The blood color occurs when the earth is between the sun and moon, cutting off light rays to cause the moon to appear reddish brown. For United News International in Metro Manila, I am Crystal Yap.
Medical experts are warning of a new virus mimicking the flu, but average American citizens will not have access to a vaccine for the virus. RT's Trinity Chavez reporting tonight.
It's a virus that feels like the flu, except it's not. It's called adenovirus, and while it may mimic most of the flu-like symptoms, there is still not a vaccine to prevent the general public against it. In a recent national report published by the CDC, it says that cases are popping up all across the country. The high fever, the constant headache and body aches, and sore throat. But while the symptoms of the virus are similar to that of the flu, doctors say they are still very different.
Typically, adenovirus can cause the common cold, and usually a normal person would get over it within a day or two, whereas the flu virus, even in a normal healthy person, usually you're sicker and you're a lot sicker for a lot longer period.
Yet the only way to know if you have it is getting tested. But even if doctors did check for the flu-like bug, the vaccine to prevent it remains licensed for military use only. According to the report, that's because the virus is most commonly isolated in military settings. However, after years away, the Department of Defense reinstated the vaccine because of a surge in outbreaks. They haven't had many since the vaccine was reintroduced in 2011. While the vaccine is currently only licensed for military use, the report does suggest that it be considered as a valuable asset to prevent disease in susceptible populations. And although outbreaks of the virus are more likely to occur in the late winter, early spring, and early summer months, the outbreaks can still happen year-round. Reporting in New York, Trinity Chavez, RT.
Eastern Ghouta is one of the so-called de-escalation zones, but it doesn't feel like it on the ground. This is the last rebel-held area close to the capital Damascus, besieged by government forces for years. Now allegations of another chlorine gas attack. Doctors say patients showed symptoms in line with inhalation of the gas.
This is renewed aggression by the regime, using chlorine gas against a place where people live in Douma. This is the third chemical attack in 15 days.
The US has reacted, concerned about the Syrian government's chemical weapons program and capabilities. Its chemical weapons should have been destroyed after a decommissioning deal brokered by Russia 5 years ago. That followed what the Obama administration said was a red line, a chemical attack in the same rebel-controlled area which killed at least 1,300 people. The Trump administration has taken a more active approach. In reaction to an alleged chemical weapons attack in northeastern Syria in April last year, the US fired 59 Tomahawk missiles at a Syrian airfield where they believe the attack originated. And now the Americans are hinting they suspect the Syrian government still has chemical weapons. The UN estimates Eastern Ghouta is home to around 400,000 Syrians, starving and malnourished. Getting aid to these people is fraught with challenges.
The UN Special Envoy to Syria, Jan Egeland, says that there is a desperate need for a humanitarian pause in Eastern Ghouta. He added that both the Syrian government and the armed opposition are failing hundreds of thousands of civilians who are stuck in these besieged areas. It seems almost 7 years into this war, and despite the political meetings taking place many thousands of kilometers away, it is the military option that remains the priority for all sides.    Stephanie Decker, Al Jazeera, Antakya.
11 people are dead after a fire broke out at a home for welfare recipients in Hokkaido, Japan. The fire was reported just before midnight on Wednesday, January 31st. Footage broadcast on NHK shows smoke and flames billowing from the 3-story building in the city of Sapporo. Firefighters were able to rescue 5 residents and eventually put the blaze out shortly before noon on Thursday. 3 of those rescued sustained injuries and were transported to a hospital. However, none of those injuries are reported to be life-threatening. Most of the building's residents were elderly. The identities of those who have been killed in the fire have not been released. Fire department officials said the building contained fire extinguishers and fire alarms, but it did not have a sprinkler system. An investigation into the cause of the fire is currently underway. For United News International, I'm Mila Yunus.
The UN's Migration Agency reports at least 90 migrants drowned off Libya's coast in the Mediterranean Sea. The International Organization for Migration, or IOM, said their boat capsized on Thursday, February 1st in a statement published Friday. At least 10 bodies from the incident have been found washed up on Libya's shore, while 2 survivors swam to land and another was rescued by a fishing boat. The IOM says it is working on the details of the tragedy and working to assist the survivors. It reported these casualties bring the reported fatalities up to 246 for this year alone. The Mediterranean route passing Libya is common for migrants to reach southern Europe. The European Union struck a deal with the Libyan Coast Guard to intercept people migrating and return them home last year. The IOM said over 250 people in rubber dinghies were returned to Libya on Wednesday after trying to head to Europe. For United News International, I'm Rachel Latham.
Russia claims several hundred people, including civilians, have been killed during Turkey's military operation in Syria's northern Afrin region. Ankara launched an air and ground offensive nearly 2 weeks ago to target Kurdish militia fighters, opening up a new front in Syria's multi-sided war. It considers the Syrian Kurdish People's Protection Units, or YPG, an extension of the outlawed Kurdish rebels fighting an insurgency inside Turkey. Turkey's state-run Anadolu agency said 2 rockets fired from the Afrin region on Wednesday hit the Turkish border town of Reyhanli and killed 1 person.
More than 5 mass graves containing the bodies of scores of Rohingya villagers have been discovered in a village in Myanmar, according to the Associated Press. An investigation by the news agency is said to include multiple witness testimony and time-stamped mobile phone footage of the aftermath of the attacks, believed to have taken place last August. Survivors say many victims are unidentifiable after soldiers tried to cover up evidence of the atrocity, with video appearing to indicate the use of acid to remove bodies. Some were dumped into rivers, some were buried, some were burnt with acid and turned into skeletons, some were chopped up, some were taken into the paddy fields and dumped there. It was very difficult to determine how many there were. I estimate that at least 400 people were killed. At least 10 to 20 infants were among the dead. But Myanmar's government has denied such massacres of the Rohingya, only acknowledging 1 mass grave which it says contains the bodies of 10 terrorists. Since August, more than 620,000 members of the Muslim minority are believed to have fled the country to neighbouring Bangladesh following a military crackdown.
The Turkish Armed Forces, the TAF, and the Free Syrian Army, the FSA, captured the town of Bulbul, as well as the villages of Ali Kar, Thara, and Alham from Kurdish YPG forces in the area of Afrin. According to pro-Turkish sources, over 24 YPG members were killed in the recent clashes. Pro-Kurdish sources claim that 20 members of Turkey-led forces were killed. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan also said that 800 so-called terrorists had been killed since the start of Ankara's Operation Olive Branch in the area on January 20th. The Syrian Arab Army, SAA, and its allies liberated the villages of Wasita, Tal Jina, Siha Swamp, Karamil, Tal Akarib at Shana Garbi, and Tal Hussein from Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, formerly Jabhat al-Nusra, the Syrian branch of al-Qaeda, in eastern Idlib and southern Aleppo. Government forces are currently deployed within about 16 kilometers from the strategic militant-held town of Sarakib. In northeastern Hama, the SAA liberated the village of Abu Kanadik from ISIS. In eastern Ghouta, the SAA advanced on positions of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham and Falik al-Rahman in the urban district, but failed to achieve any notable progress. Separately, militants accused the SAA of using chemical weapons in the area. According to reports, at least 3 rockets with chlorine gas hit the city of Douma. On February 1st, several FSA groups operating in southern Syria announced that they had launched a military operation against the ISIS-affiliated Khalid ibn al-Walid army in western Dara. The operation is codenamed Al-Fatihan Battle and is supported by Israel. Israeli forces reportedly conducted several military strikes on positions of the ISIS-affiliated group in the areas of Tel Jumu and Tasil. However, it's unlikely that the FSA will be able to deliver a devastating blow to ISIS in the area, even with Israeli support.
Photos that have surfaced online suggest that China is preparing to test an electromagnetic railgun. The images recently posted on social media show the Chinese landing ship Haiyang Shan equipped with what appears to be an experimental electromagnetic railgun installed on its bow. If confirmed, China would be the first country in the world to mount such a system on board a ship and take it out to sea. Railguns use electromagnetic energy rather than gunpowder to sling a projectile, offering the speed and efficiency of a cannon with the range of a missile. The U.S. recently announced that it is scaling back its efforts to develop railguns and other electromagnetic technologies, after spending more than $500 million on the project, which has yet to see combat. For United News International in Washington, D.C., I'm Caitlin May. Seeking closer ties between the two countries, Qatar said that it will expand a major military base used by U.S. forces. Qatar's defense ministry said that it will build more family housing, entertainment centers, and other facilities at Al Udeid Air Base, which acts as U.S. Central Command's forward operating base. The base currently hosts some 10,000 American troops. Defense Minister Khalid bin Mohammed Al Attiyah said during a visit to Washington, D.C. on January 28th that he wants U.S. troops and their families to feel more comfortable in their stay. He also praised the relationship between the two countries, saying that he would like to make the Al Udeid Air Base permanent. The announcement comes as Qatar has become increasingly isolated from its neighbors, following an economic blockade by Saudi Arabia and other Gulf states. For United News International in Washington, D.C., I'm Caitlin May.
The Russian military could soon deploy warplanes on a disputed island near Japan. Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev approved the deployment in a decree published February 1st. It allows the Russian Defense Ministry to land warplanes at a civilian airport on an island Russia calls Ichirup. Japan calls the same island Itarofu. Located northeast of Japan's Hokkaido region, it's one of 4 disputed islands that Russia has occupied since World War II. Russia has reportedly been beefing up its military presence in the region in the wake of U.S.-led military drills with Japan and plans to install U.S. missiles in the country. Meanwhile, Japanese broadcaster NHK reports Japan has lodged a protest with Moscow over the airport decree. Reuters points out that decree was published just days before diplomats from the two countries were due to hold talks about cooperation on the disputed islands. For United News International, I'm Matt Paul.
The U.S. says it needs smaller nuclear weapons as a deterrence against other so-called great powers. The Pentagon's newly updated Nuclear Posture Review outlined 2 new types of nuclear weapons to be produced. Low-yield nuclear options for ballistic missiles, which could be launched from a submarine, and nuclear-armed submarine-launched cruise missiles. The theory goes Russia expects the U.S. wouldn't use a high-yield nuclear weapon if it detonated a smaller, low-yield nuke. Defense officials say having those smaller nuclear weapons is now a necessary deterrence. The submarine launch capability would also make the weapons effective against North Korea and could be a reassurance to Japan and South Korea. The Pentagon says it will focus on developing low-yield ballistic missile warheads in the short term and develop nuclear-tipped submarine-launched cruise missiles in the long term.
A test of a U.S. missile defense system failed early Wednesday morning in Hawaii. The same system the Pentagon would depend on to shoot down intermediate-range ballistic missiles from North Korea. According to multiple media outlets, an SM-3 Block 2A missile failed to intercept its target in a test off the Hawaiian coast on January 31st. The Missile Defense Agency acknowledged the drill took place, but would not comment on the results. If confirmed, it would be the second unsuccessful test
of the Raytheon-made missile within a year. The SM-3 Block 2A is a developmental interceptor being jointly developed by the U.S. and Japan to defeat medium and intermediate-range ballistic missiles. The reported failure has renewed concerns of how the U.S. would defend itself in the event of a missile attack by North Korea or another adversary. For United News International in Washington, D.C., I'm Caitlin
In
Maga.
his first State of the Union address, U.S. President Donald Trump indicated his patience is running out over North Korea's development of nuclear weapons that can strike America. The U.S. has ramped up sanctions against Pyongyang and increased military deployments to the region. Trump again alluded to a military option.
North Korea's reckless pursuit of nuclear missiles could very soon threaten our homeland. We are waging a campaign of maximum pressure to prevent that from ever happening. Past experience has taught us that complacency and concessions only invite aggression and provocation. I will not repeat the mistakes of past administrations that got us into this very dangerous position.
The U.S. has delayed more large-scale drills with South Korea until April, but rejected dialogue and routinely warns of a preemptive strike on North Korea. With the Winter Olympics set to start in South Korea February 9th, Seoul no doubt views such rhetoric from the U.S. leader unfavorably, say experts.
I doubt very much if South Korean leadership here is very enthusiastic about his strong remarks about North Korea. They don't want North Korea suddenly making huge statements and threats in the run-up to these Olympics or during the Olympics.
South Korea is finalizing preparations with the Games just a few days away, and North Korea set to participate, thanks to landmark talks between Seoul and Pyongyang that many hope could lead to broader dialogue following the so-called Peace Olympics. Trump's remarks about North Korea's leadership in his State of the Union reflect a strategy to create an enemy that his American supporters may unite to rally against. But the upcoming Winter Olympics is expected to help the world better understand North Korea through contact with its athletes and fans, and perhaps undermine the animosity the U.S. president promotes. Frank Smith, Press TV, Seoul.
Hello.
You're watching the very moment when a baby hears for the first time.
Hi. Are you emotional? You're gonna make me cry.
At first, 2-month-old Charlotte, who was born with profound hearing loss, is a little overwhelmed by her new hearing aids.
Yeah.
Then her mom, Christy Keene, utters those 3 words every child needs to hear.
I love you. I love you.